folks, and welcome to the stream. My name is Mike D'Angelo, aka That Tellest Guy. We are going to be looking at our cavern map that we started working on yesterday, and we are also going to be playing a little bit more with the tools that Inkarnate let me have a little earlier than maybe some of the people who are getting it outside of the beta. Yesterday, I gushed about these tools, and Rihanna was even making fun of me because it was a good amount of time that I was having. I did want to kind of show you what we did with it off stream. I think it was off stream. I pretty much put everything that you see here on the map together using that tool, the line tool. If I was making a house or something like that, I would have used the shape tool, but the line tool really did kind of what we needed it to for the purposes of this cavern. You'll notice I kind of stopped once I got there, and you can see by kind of looking at the mask tool, the way that I outline things, there's still some chunkiness and things that need to get changed. And one of the other kind of struggles that you might have is because I already did the floor coloring the way I did, these things kind of get, stuck in there. It gets kind of difficult to see things. But there is a trick. What you can do is come in here and you can change the stroke color to something a little bit more easy to see. So I could come and, make it that stroke color. Now, I think the problem ultimately is going to be I have no idea what it was before. So we'll see if there's a default that I can throw together. Yeah, so I can throw that back if I need to. But we can definitely do a mask effects off if we need to later. We can put it back on. A lot of different things that we can do. So let's keep things custom for now. You can see I did a little bit of work on the shadows and everything as well. Let's make a note of this. So I'm going to throw this into my notepad document, and that way I don't have to go back to default. I can just keep my custom. So give me 1 second to get that put in place. Doink. Oh, you know what? I missed the 3 there. And the nobody who's watching. Well, Rihanna's not a nobody. But I was making a joke that nobody is watching. All right, so we're going to bring that back to white, and then we're going to go into our masks and stuff like that, and we're going to try and subtract some of this. We're going to do it with the smooth brush, and we're going to dial it back just a smidge. And the idea, I forgot, we kind of inverted this one, so we have to actually add it back into place. So we're trying to add this until it's going to be kind of pushed underneath the cliffs. And when we do a little bit of work with the mask tool to kind of change this back to the default, it should blend in a little nicer. We are going to try and see if we can get it as close to kind of under the cliffs as we can, because it'll end up looking nice if we do it that way. This tool really did a very nice job of making things look better than I can when I'm doing it manually. If we look up at the original map in this zone, things start to kind of blend together. Like you start to see the same shape over and over and again. But this tool really does kind of blend things together in a nice kind of finessey kind of way. And it really does help to do what you want to make it look nice and clean. So to go back downstairs, I got Luna laying down up here. Luna is not to be left alone when I'm streaming. He's becoming my cheer dog. Alright, so we've got that. Let's do a couple more things down here and catch some of these areas. Big amount of schmutz over in this area that we have to clean up. But it's not so bad. And then here, I notice there's a little bit that we want to kind of stuff back. Again, you're not really going to notice too much when we change the coloring, but I know. And that bothers me. So this is just small work and stuff like that. The nice thing about a cavern is the shape of the cavern itself is kind of like a point of interest on its own. You know, having something like this really does make it. Oh, you know what? Is that facing the wrong way? Well, let's see. I can grab these lines. I think. I feel like they're facing inward over here. Yeah, let's redo that. And then the nice thing about us doing it that way is you'll be able to see kind of what we're doing. So we've got the stroke size set to 45 because we have that other map up there kind of doing its thing. Let's see if it plays nice or not. So we're not going to go all the way around. So let's do something like that and see. That does start to look like it's pointing outward instead. But that really looks like it's pointing inward. Tricky, tricky. Let's see. Let's just continue it this way for now. That looks okay. Those are kind of chunkier than I want it to be. The nice thing is I don't really have to stay with the mask shape that I have. Let's see, if I go back in here and we subtract a bit of that out, I definitely think it looks better than it did, but it still needs a little bit of work here and there. Especially around areas like that. So the plan is what we're going to end up doing after this is moving over to kind of like one east of this area, and I kind of want to show you from scratch how to build something like this out, because the experience that I started this with was you know, there's tons and tons of like cavern generator tools that you can find out there, but kind of knowing where to start and what to do is part of the adventure as well, and I want to make sure that you don't have to go on that adventure alone. So let's see. Go back to our add tool and try and clean some more of this up. And there's another thing that you can do. So if I come in here and I go to the edit nodes, let's see, we can click this one and I can kind of move that one back a little bit. So that one didn't look all that great. Now that one looks a little nicer. Now these ones over here, they look nice. There's not like a lot that we have to do over here to clean things up, but like this over here maybe could use a little TLC, because that kind of breaks up and looks like the predator is coming out to eat you. So let's come in here and we'll go into our nodes one more time, and maybe what we'll do is I can cut the path starting there to there. Let's zoom it in a little bit. Perfect. So if I come here and I cut the path, doink, that's all gone now. And let's bring this up to, well, I'll tell you what, let's cut everything and we'll kind of redo it as needed. Yeah, let's cut everything. Looking kind of ugly, and we can do better. Cut this path here, and now what we're doing is we're going to grab this node here. Kind of ugly. I'll tell you what we can do. That one, leave it there. And let's take a look at this one real quick. Let's cut that one out too. And the nice thing is we're learning about this at the same time. So if there's anything weird and new that we can work on, this will be kind of a fun one to explore. Looks much nicer. So cutting those kind of things out and cleaning it up is a nice little thing that you can do. All right, so we are adding again because we're trying to get rid of those little chunks there. Those already look pretty nice because we followed the line. This piece here might need a little bit of TLC, so let's check out those nodes. Maybe, yeah, I feel like that plays a little nicer than it did before. Everything else looks pretty nice in place. Let's go back to our mask tool, and we're going to add something there and here and here, and let's subtract so that these come out to the edges of those cliffs a little better. Those look pretty good up here, and up here on the top everything looks pretty nice. Now we do know that we're going to need to come down to our textures and get a couple more things in here. We have the size of that is kind of off, and we have the cracks that I don't want to lose, so we're going to just be very subtle about these kind of brown edges, and should be good there. Now let's do our adds and subtracts for the mask tool up here. Oh, you know what? Here's another demonstration of when you don't quite have your node as well as you would like it to. So I think something like that kind of does the trick. Closes the gap. There's probably a better way to do it, but I don't really know what it is just yet. And, you know, as we learn more about the process, we'll figure out some new tricks. That's part of the adventure. Got all that there. Let's do a little bit there to kind of push it back. Again, you're going to end up having the different mask effects, which are going to help kind of disguise those things. This over here, and tweak. That looks okay. That looks okay. We've got a little bit of stuff there. And you can disguise those things, you know, those little gaps that you might have with like rocks and things like that too. So we may explore with a few things. Some pretty deep cuts over here. You can see that gap right there, excuse me, that gap right there as well. That might be trim enough where I might be able to go into the nodes and just kind of stretch it a little bit further. You do notice that when I do that though, it moves everything. I think ultimately, if I was able to do just one more node, it would help a lot. But I think, to the best of my knowledge, there is nothing there that lets me do that. So just doing something like that, one more little node that's kind of on its own, sort of kind of does the trick. Not really in that case. That's a bad example, but let's do maybe a little wider. Oh. So, oh, come on. So that one's kind of tricky because it looks better this way, I think. Kind of just throw that over top of these ones. Maybe shrink it down a smidge. back to our mask tools. Kind of subtract this one out because it's way far back there. Same one with over here, I guess. And back to our ads. You know what? Speaking of ads, I have some sponsors that would like to say something. And now, a word from our sponsors. Always hard at work on multiple series, author Aaron Renfro is currently making magic with the penultimate book in his Resonance Cycle series. Night Unleashed sees the Lit RPG series character mainstays coming to terms with the fact that, though they may have supernatural talents, even they can bleed. With the final battle not far off, Renfro puts the pieces into their positions, leaving a promise for readers and fans that what is to come will be nothing short of legendary. If you enjoy lit RPGs and isekai adventures, you'll be fully immersed with the magic and splendor of Night Unleashed, the 6th book in the Resonance Cycle. Check out our promo on the Tellest website this week. Lit RPG newcomer Italian Dragon has grand aspirations of a tremendous, interconnected multiverse. Their debut, Third Path of Creation Book 1, Traveler's Journey, an Omniverse series, is the first step toward mastering the foundation of those interwoven worlds. Traveler's Journey is a lit RPG that certainly does what it sets out to and introduces readers to an overpowered main character who uses their wits just as much as their newfound abilities. Oh, and they get to turn into a dragon. What more could readers want? If you're looking for a lit RPG that leans into the fantasy elements just as much as game theory, check out the promo for Third Path of Creation Book 1, Traveler's Journey, an Omniverse series on the Tellest website today. I was still muted. Thank you. Misery coming to the rescue. I was saying that I was doing a little bit more work on the map while the sponsorships were rolling, and I don't think that we're going to spend an exorbitant amount of time in this map or anything like that, but I still have to figure out like what I'm going to do with the points of interest in this map. The whole notion of this map is it's a like a pull from one of the Tellest short stories. There's a story called Don't Wake the Dead, and if we go up to the temple up here, there's actually a whole big string of catacombs underneath the temple over here as you keep going further down, and it leads to one of the Calistrazi, which are the first men of Tellest. They're the ones that were imbued with kind of like the most magic when they arrived from beneath the surface, and I kind of want to build off of that logic and maybe have it so that there's some other stuff that's down here. There really shouldn't be like any other way to get to it. I wanted it to be a religious place where people could get to it from above, and that was pretty much it. Like, it was supposed to be reached by the gods, and it was supposed to be reached by the the acolytes who were celebrating such a thing. So there's something to be said about building the map to do that kind of thing. So I don't know if we'll do kind of like a religious shrine outside, or if it'll be something completely different. Haven't really, nailed that down yet. I really wanted to get the shape of the cavern itself. Now, up above, because we do have a second map that we're working on congruently with this, and we'll release them in two pieces. But the idea was that map is a little bit more, wildernessy and stuff like that. I think we nailed most of this down. I'm going to do one real quick pass, but I think we kind of started down here. We left a little bit of schmutz out, but most of this is done. Very cool. So now if we go back, we can take those color schemes again and copy that into the hex code. Boom. So like I said, it blends in a lot nicer when you have that kind of brown color, and especially because we have that kind of reddish brown cave pattern. So we have that. That looks nice. We have all of our black and our gray and our cracks and everything like that, but we did make 214 changes. So let's do a save real quick. I will take this opportunity to sip on some water. The last of my water. Oh. You okay, Luna? I'm sorry, I almost hit you. Not intentionally. All right, let's minimize that. So again, the shape of the cavern was pretty much what I wanted to do with our first, 20 minutes or so. Let's take a step back out now. The reason that I wanted to do that was I was thinking while I was working on this map, I did a lot of the kind of shaping off stream, and I wanted to show folks what it could look like to do the next map, because we don't want this cavern to just be, one south, one east, one west. I want it to be cavernous. I want it to be something that's kind of expansive. So what I did was I took our two maps, I locked them down with some kind of color overlays so I could see exactly where the 40 by 20 stuff was for each of these. We're only going to expand on this in one way today, but we will either on another stream or off stream look at the next component of this. So again, we have those two kind of overlays, and then what I did was, you can find a lot of generators online for cavern stuff, dungeon stuff in general. There's also like other fun ways that you can do things. You can make your own generator really, really easy. It's very rudimentary, but you can use an Excel spreadsheet with some randomizer code, and then you can do conditional formatting, and then you can kind of take that out. If somebody really wants me to, when this ends up on YouTube, when it's actually watched by somebody 3 years from now or something like that, and somebody wants to see kind of how you put that together, certainly let me know. I can show you what that looks like. If you really wanted to go old school, technically you can go even more old school and get rid of computers altogether and just use dice. And one of the things that you'll see is people will grab a handful of dice, throw them onto a piece of paper, and kind of draw their cavern around where their dice land. So that's a way that you can do things as well. But one of the things that you can find a lot of places on the internet is generators. So what we have here is just a real quick generated map that I had found, and we're going to kind of take this and roll with it. I'm going to drop it to maybe like 65%. And we're going to go to our mask tool. We're not going to do it one-to-one because I think like we're going to lose this chunk up here. But I do want this one to feel a little bit more like claustrophobic and stuff like that. So we are going to tweak some things. So I think, let's do a test run over here. If we subtract, that's what we're looking to do, because everything over here should be, nope, I lied. Don't mind me. So as I add over here, we're cutting into that area. All right, we're going to keep the kind of edged version of this, and we're going to, let's put on the Parvo glove, and that way I can use the stylus. It's been a long time since I've actually drawn on my Wacom tablet. So we're just going to take these rooms, I think, and draw into them. So we'll get the basic shapes and everything like that. It might be a little too rough, but it also might not be rough enough. So as I mentioned, we're probably not going to use this room up here because it's going to be a little bit too up against the border. But what we might be able to do is make a smaller, like abbreviated version of it, so we can do like a tiny little chunk like that. And we'll come out here. Now, one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure that this connected into the part that we just worked on. So do something like that, and then eventually we'll have something up top that this is connecting into as well. I actually don't need to do that. I can use the smooth one for that once it's time. So this is kind of tricky too, because we don't want to come right up against the border except for when we know where we're building it out. And the nice thing is the new path tool is definitely going to help us to determine where to make these look a little rougher. Because right now it's, you know, the roughness is there. If we excuse me, that was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to mess with the roughness. So if we built this to be a little bit more rough, here's what you can see it does. The roughness here ends up being smooth. Technically, if you wanted to make it more rough, you'd have to make it, you know, like 3 instead of 6. So it starts off as 8, and if we dial this down to 3, probably a little bit more accurate with the way that we want to build things out. See, and that's tricky too, because we don't want it to get too close to the bottom for the same reason we didn't want it to get too close to the top. So we're just going to leave, you know what, that's too low too. Do that instead of going down that far. We'll come up this way. Now, you'll notice that in the, well, I don't need to do that, I can do that later. We do need to do this area up here and maybe a little bit down here. In our original map, which the temple is a part of, there's a lot of green and everything like that, and that works up there because you can't really tell now, but there's a sinkhole over top of it, so there is light getting there, there is rain getting there. It might not make sense for it to be all the way over here, but I mean, in theory, the angle of the sun probably gets some stuff going over there, so it's not entirely without merit. And one of the other things that you might notice is this map has no left to right. There's this tiny little piece here that I'm going to use to kind of indicate if adventurers really want to, they can push their way through that. So the way that the short story kind of transpired, one of the Calistrazes that's in that tomb is basically a Death Knight, and when he escapes, he is just, his singular mission is to just wipe out anybody who kind of awoke him and tried to grave rob and stuff like that. And that makes for a fun little adventure, because the whole concept of this zone can be, what do the players do to try and escape this creature? So can they get out through the aperture, the sinkhole, Or is there something else that they're trying to do to get away? So it does make for a fun little experience. So maybe one of the things that they can do is get to an area like this where maybe they can see like light coming through, and there's something else that we're building over on this side that explains why that light is there. Maybe there's bioluminescent mushrooms or something like that. All right, let's go. Oop, you know what? I did notice we've got these little chunks over here that need to be filled too. And at that point, I think we're good. So let's do this. We're going to take this piece and we're going to cut that down. Now, right now, if you were just looking at this, good luck. There's just a lot going on that you're not really noticing or anything like that. So we will keep that on while we're throwing the other stuff in. We're going to go back to our mask. We're going to keep it on add, but instead of having the tool the way that we had it, we're going to be using our smooth brush. And we'll fill in those gaps here like this. And the other piece of this that we'll be able to do to make it kind of look a little nicer is when we use that tool, it will help to kind of sell the idea that everything is a lot cleaner than we have it. Nope. Just a little bit more in these little spots here. And let's get to the other side. Almost there. Now some of these centerpieces, what we'll probably do is I'll try and see if there's like any stalactites or anything that I can use, and that'll help to sell that kind of, hey, you're in a cavern feel a little better. All right, so we've got that now. Let's see real quick if we go in and use our gray ground on the background. That helps to get that in play. So we want to make sure that we're not going too far over into the territory on the other side, because I don't want to blend. Well, I guess it really doesn't matter, because when we're using this in the future, we're going to be using it for we're going to export out this piece, so we don't have to really worry about losing too much. But I also want it there kind of as like a guideline, so again, don't want to go over too far and lose kind of the presence of what we have. Like one of the tricky things is over here in the original, you can see that the black kind of comes up here, so we're going to have to be kind of stringent with how much black we bring over here. But so we've got that piece now, and then if I go to the foreground and we use the dirt kind of color scheme, now that is size 15 because we doubled how much we're working on. I am in the foreground now, so when we cut this stuff out, this should look more like natural dirt inside a cavern instead of the weird green grass that doesn't really seem like it would fit there. All right, so moment of truth. Oh, you know what? I noticed a little bit more that needs to be tweaked here and there. And we can always adjust it afterwards, obviously. So let's take that piece out, and then that is our fairly much more normal looking cavern. Oh, I'm on the wrong side. We want to put that on the background. So obviously right now, pretty basic. In theory, you could very well get away with this. If you wanted to bring this into your tabletop experience, I don't think any of your players would be going nuts about, hey, this doesn't look realistic. Looks pretty realistic, all things considered. So let's do a real quick save. 89 changes doesn't seem like a lot, but we were, doing a lot of painting and a lot of mask work and stuff like that, so we don't want to lose track of that. And then what we're going to do next is, again, play with the path tool. And you know what? I took the Parvo glove off, but it probably makes sense to keep it on because I can be a little bit more precise with the line tool with the stylus. So now, again, if I go to this tool, I've already got everything that I need. Again, it kind of shrunk it down to half as big as it was because we had it at 45, and now it's on 23 because we doubled the size of the map that we were working on. So let's see how much finesse I can get out of this with the stylus. So I am legit trying to just follow along with the mask line. And I think we have to kind of make, it doesn't really look great to me. We have to make kind of frequent stops, and the reason for that is because if you don't, and it's really, the part of the difficulty right now is it's so low definition right now that I can't really see if it looks like it's pointed the right way. I'll tell you what, let's try from a different area and see if we can't get things looking a little better. That looks like it's probably good. So I think over here would be okay as well. That is kind of like the trick, is does it look like it's facing the right way? And I don't really know the logic. Like it's both kind of facing the same direction. So how does it know? I just don't know. I'll tell you what we're going to do is, I know that I want to, these are kind of called like peripheral entrances and exits. We only have one into this area now, so what we know we need to do is, add more as we go. So we know that we need something like that. We're going to go back to our rough tool, and we have to determine from this part of the cavern, we have a left, and we're going to need at least one more. I kind of want to connect it to this top piece, and I want to make it so that depending on which way players are trying to escape the big bad, it kind of makes sense if they're coming from over here. So we'll have that be another kind of entrance into this part of the cavern. And then over here, this is where I want players to, in theory, be able to escape to. Do I go east or do I go south? East is pretty easy because we've already gone that way before. Maybe we do both. Maybe we have that there, and I picked there because I could see the little green spot coming out, and then maybe we have some kind of southerly exit there as well. So we got a little bit to play with there. Only 6 changes, so we're not going to go nuts with anything yet. But now that I'm mentioning it, the whole reason that I went on that little tangent was, if I go and save now, I can export this to, I can resize it. It's already shaped the way that I need it to be. In theory, I want to get a little closer to this area real quick and make sure that that looks the right way. And I'm still going to need to come back here. Like, I can't really make any glaring changes anywhere else, because I want to make sure that this little entrance doesn't change, this little entrance doesn't change, that kind of stuff. But things look pretty decent here. we are going to make one more change, and the reason for that is because we can see that piece there kind of needed to be tweaked a little bit. And I don't have to go nuts with that or anything. So what we're going to do is, one more time, go to the foreground, kind of paint those dirt pieces in, and we're going to resize this. Grab just our pieces of the map here, make sure we're snapped to the grid, make sure we actually get a 40 by 20 area. We don't want to remove anything because I don't want to, chance getting rid of the path stuff over here. We are hitting close to 45 minutes, so once we get this out there, we'll take a beat and we'll come back tomorrow possibly. I'm going to be traveling tomorrow, so depending on how long I'm traveling, we'll determine whether or not we're still working on things. Poor Sleepy Luna. I do want to say the sponsors that we work with are really awesome, and I want to try and make sure that we're always doing something. It's just pretty consistently these past couple of weeks have been very draining to me, so I haven't had a lot of time to spend, doing the fun stuff. So we should still have. Oop, I'm on the wrong size. Everything should have reverted to the higher size. So instead of 15 or anything like that, we should have the right sizes here. You'll notice that as I'm drawing into this background, well, the foreground, we're not losing any of those colors. Everything is the correct offset. Everything is the correct size. 30% is exactly what we're looking for, so not too shabby. So you can see where the shadows kind of start to cut over. We would add a little bit more of them there, but what we're really trying to see is when we start to draw these lines again, and I don't have the Parvo glove on anymore, I'm just kind of winging it. That doesn't quite look right because it looks like it's going in instead of out, but what we can do is that we can use the flip the stroke vertically tool, and that ends up making it look a little nicer. Now let's see if we're drawing over here if we need to do any other flips. Yep, we do. So another vertical flip keeps things looking pretty nice. We'll do another drawing over here. See if that needs to be done. Nope, that one looks pretty good. Keep it going. Now again, really the biggest problem was when I was working on it before, it didn't quite look right because I was having a very hard time seeing what I was working with. This looks a lot nicer. One of the other things, if you go into the stroke options, you can hit these caps. You're not going to see that work with everything. If I'm doing something like this and it doesn't look right, one of the first things that I might do is look and see if those caps end up helping or hindering the way that everything looks. You can see like every now and then while I'm doing these and I turn, you can see that little round spot. That round spot is the cap. And in some cases that might make sense. Like if you're doing a staircase or something like that, you might want something that looks similar to that. But in the case of the map that I'm working on now, certainly not, I don't want the pieces that I'm working on now to have that kind of feel. So they're still poking out. That piece there looks pretty good. I'm not too worried about that. I will show you an example of where a cap might make sense. I think part of it is you're going to want to make your own caps in a lot of these cases. That's very claustrophobic there, so let me try and trim that down a little bit. And we'll bring the roughness back down to like 4. There we go. Let's see, are we gonna have, is it gonna look all right? Yeah, looks kind of chunky. Looks like cauliflower, but that's okay. All right, I'm not gonna do everything here, but I mean, looks pretty decent. There's a decent amount of little work that went in there. We do know that we have to do the same thing here that we did with the other map, and we're going to have to kind of clear things up. The line that we have, the stroke size is 45, so it's about the right size for what we're trying to do. If we do like one more test, and we have something like that, if we wanted to, what we really could do is make the cliff bigger or smaller. It really depends on how chunky you want it. So 45 I feel like was a pretty nice number for us to play with. So let's go back to 45. We don't really need that. Let's grab one of these so that we actually have everything feeling pretty natural there. So again, does pretty much what we want it to. We do know that we need to add cracks to the walls. We know we need to add the walls themselves, you know, the borders and everything. Let's over here we would do a little bit more to the wall itself to make it look like it is collapsible. We're going to save that. I'm not quite sure that we're ready to give up on everything tonight and call it quits for the day. So this is going to be 1 south, 1 east, and we'll rename it once we have you know, a little bit more of a point of interest in these places. We've done like a lot with like temples and shrines in like one kind of burst. So I don't necessarily know that I want to do a shrine, since the temple is one north of this area. But let's go out, and we're not going to actually build any buildings or anything like that, but I will show you. I mean, we just spent some time talking about the caps and stuff like that, so I do want to show you what that looks like. So we've got the Sinkhole 1 South map. And these were things that I already had, so we're going to ignore them for now. But if I go to this tool again, and we were using the shape tool for, well, we've got the wall that we want, right? So we've got this piece right here. So I'm drawing, and you can see, well, it didn't really do what I expected it to. Let's do this, and we'll snap to the grid. So a double click gets you exactly where you want in those cases. Over here, maybe I want a cap. So how do I draw that cap? Right? There's no cap there. So we got there and there. And again, no cap. There is, I think, so you can go here in the node. You can do weird things there if you really wanted to. You could do curves and stuff like that if you wanted. Let's delete this and we'll start from scratch. So that's if you wanted to free draw. That's if you wanted to do the pen. We've got the stroke color adjustments. So that's your HSBC stuff. And then we've got the stroke options themselves here. And display caps only at path endings. So let's try, we'll do this again. Let's do we're doing the pen. necessarily know how this knows whether or not it's the end of the path. So let's do edit the nodes. Click and drag a wall to move it. Click and drag control points to curve the walls. So this would be, that would be like a control point right there. So that's how to curve it. So we don't quite want to do that. We've got our shortcuts. So when moving a control point, hold Alt to move only one of the points. Oh, that's kind of cool. I was not expecting that. Not quite what I was thinking, but... And that's not doing anything. What about up here? Can we add a node? No, it's not quite what I was trying to do. You okay, Luna? How do I add a node? That made it ugly for sure. So that lets me kind of take it off of the grid snapping. Alt plus or Alt and the middle button to do the next node. Oh, okay, so that lets you move. If you hold Alt and then you scroll, that'll be how you do things like that, but not, again, not quite what I was trying to do. And I could keep adding more control points if I wanted to. Definitely need a little bit of practice. And again, the whole thing that I was trying to do here was figure out the caps. So let's do some caps here instead. So no caps. That didn't do a cap either. Not doing the caps. What is going on here? Now, meanwhile, if I take the shape and I go to, what is it? Open shape. Well, that's not listening to me either. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Let me think. We were doing this stuff yesterday and it was doing things one way, and now it certainly isn't. Let's do. Okay. And then if I went to open the shape, it should open it right here. Cool. We're going to close the shape, and then what I'm going to do is go into edit nodes, and we're going to cut a portal out. And I'm not getting the caps there either. What is going on? Aha! So maybe it was the shape that I was using did not have the caps. Yes. Okay. All right. So it was all the shape. But how was I to know this? Okay. So this looks really nice because you can do something cool with this, and we don't have an open shape. So what we can actually do is do a fill, and we can do a texture, and very nice. So that leaves us with some pretty cool stuff that we can do. If we go into the texture, we could say I'm working on something with bricks. I'm actually surprised that there's nothing in the castle set that looks a little bit better. Maybe we'll do some stone walls, but we're going to do the fill size that looks like 30%. 30%. Now let's see what we can do about... Let's get rid of these guys. We're not really doing anything. This is all a practice run. I'm just having fun. We are going to take another shape and we're going to extend outward. So we're going to grab our pen tool. We're going to grab here. And this is ugly. Stick to what you're good at, man. And we want to... one of the things that I've noticed is it doesn't keep to what we have here. Let's try and see if we can, since we've got that highlighted, if we move over, does it stay? Looks like it will this time. Doink. Looks nice. And then what we can do is grab the nodes, open a portal. Oh. So one of the things that we'll have to do is also grab this one and edit the nodes and open the portal here so that it doesn't look like... Oh, but that's tricky. I wonder if there's a way to tell the system... Well, I guess in theory, if you really wanted to be nuts about it, you don't have to make these shapes separately. You just need to be very aware of how you're going to build things in the first place. If I edit the node here... Let's grab this and... Oh, you know what? Can I do that? That's tricky. Like, I don't need that cap there, but the cap rules that we have in place. I say. All right, so we've got this portal over here. How much can I affect it? I can move it, and that's kind of interesting. Okay, and if I scooch this back over, I'm grabbing the wrong things. So in theory, what I can do is edit the nodes, go to the portals, know that I'm reaching this thing here, and kind of reshape it the way that I need to. The blend isn't great. So again, I think ultimately what would make sense is, let's see if we can lock these. So we're locking that selection. Let's grab our shape tool one more time. We'll grab our pens. We're going to snap it to the grid one more time. And I think if I need to, I can take it away. Oh, you know what? That's interesting. So now we know, all right, we're going to do that, we're going to do that, we're going to do that, that, and that. And now if I hit enter, it'll give me everything all at once. This blend is a lot nicer. Let's move this piece. And it actually already has that piece open. And if I go into edit nodes and go to the portals, I can open that piece there. Kind of move it around as needed. So that is probably the way that you want to do it. Maybe get like a general size the right way, and then adjust that as needed. I don't like how kind of brown. That's the wrong stuff. That is the fill. I want to use the stroke colors. We make that desaturate a little bit. Doesn't look quite as brown. Looks a little bit more gray. The reason that I'm doing this, and you guys are watching with me, is the next map after the sinkhole stuff that we're going to do is going to be, we have a character that we introduced in Silver Serpent that, oh, this is going to work so nice. I want to do kind of like a gatehouse for him, because his whole shtick is he's basically a gargoyle. So I want him to be able to kind of watch people who are going through an area from the top of his guardhouse. And this path tool is going to be perfect for that. So, you know, practicing and everything like that really does help. And I've already got like some general shapes and stuff like that. Recreating some of the things that I want to do is going to be a lot easier now. Well, let's not go too crazy. We're just going to leave that for now, knowing that we have the ability to do it. And let's get to our show closing page, shall we? So on the screen now, you should see all the places that you can find Tellest goodness out there on the internet. The most, important place that you should probably go to is Tellest.com. That's anytime we have any kind of big news at all, we usually post about it there, whether that's new books, new Kickstarter projects, new anything really. That's a great place to start. After that, you might want to check out patreon.com/Tellest. That is where we put all of our premium digital goods, most notably these maps. But we also, I think I do want a Choco Mako Misery. We also have art that we're posting a couple of days a week. Very likely that we're going to tweak the way that we do things, because we have been doing a lot more map stuff these days than art stuff. So we might flip the script on that and have more things that are related to tabletop, and slow down on the artwork a little bit, just so that we can build up a budget and things like that. The other place that you should go for premium goods, but this is premium physical goods, is the Etsy shop, tellest.etsy.com. That's where you're going to be able to find physical versions of our battle maps, including everything that you've seen on this channel before, but we're going to slowly build our way up, because we have like 21 maps that are done now, and we have 72 that are ready to go, so to speak. But we've got a bunch of other stuff on the Etsy page as well, and that includes stickers, bookmarks, the art book, the Quantum Quest tabletop game that we developed, the Weird Witch Wands that Rihanna works on, and you should also check out tiktok.com/@WeirdWitchWands for that. There's just a plentitude of things that you can find on Patreon and Etsy. The other TikTok channel that you should check out is tiktok.com/@TalesOfTellest. That's where you can find our doggies, including the one that abandoned me earlier. And the last two places that I'll bring your attention to before my voice cuts out is youtube.com/@WorldOfTellest. That's where you can find our Talking Tellest stuff and our Making Maps features when we put them up there. But if you want to talk to us live, twitch.tv/ThatTellestGuy is the only place to do that. So do be sure to like and follow and all that stuff. Let's see if my little button shows up. I don't think it will, because I think I'm on the wrong page. Should have done that while I was streaming. Anyway, that'll be it for today. We went like a full hour, and that's rare these days, but I appreciate you checking us out, and I miss you.